New this morning, a major move for Netflix. There are reports that the streaming giant has won the bidding war.
It's a $72 billion deal.
Netflix is announcing a definitive agreement to buy Warner Brothers in a multi-billion-dollar deal.
I think we are here.
It's out.
I think we've been waiting for it.
Press release is out.
Press release is out. Netflix is the winner.
Is the winner, and the deal's done. Apparently.
Did Netflix just buy Warner Brothers?
Netflix has officially won the bid to buy Warner Brothers Discovery.
Okay, so I might be a bit late to the party here, but I've just been trying to give it a couple of days to really allow myself to understand what's happening and to really let it sit within myself. This whole situation about what's happening with the Netflix trying to purchase Warner Brothers. And now that's probably the clearest understanding I have right now, is that it's not done. Okay? I want to start off by that. I understand that it's not fully done yet, and I understand that it's just that they're the highest bidder right now. And I think one of the things that's craziest to me is just this idea that Warner Brothers is up for sale. Like, it's 100-year-old company that's given us some of the best memories that I've ever had. And it's just so out there for me. Like, if you asked me what was on my bingo card for this year, it wouldn't be that Warner Brothers would fall as a company. Now, it hasn't fallen, but it is close to falling. That's the thing. Now, there's a lot of people that are out there making their videos and making their responses, and they're really talking about a lot of the logistics part of it, and they're going into the political things, and they're going into a lot of the stuff that I don't really 100% like to make this channel about. I'm not really into getting into too much of the nitty-gritty of those things. I like to just talk about, I guess things that affect me as the viewer, as the consumer, or even just my opinion about things as far as what's going on. I don't want to give you any sort of details that are probably already out there. I just want to have a small discussion about what I'm thinking about while this is all happening. And essentially what I'm thinking about is two things. The first thing, and this is the biggest thing, is that I'm seeing how everybody else is feeling about that. And every time I read something different, it really shines a light about how crazy this is. Just this premise of how Netflix is such a huge... It takes up so much of the market share of the streaming world and the digital creation world and the digital outlook stuff of like what we are viewing as the consumer side of things, that I didn't realize how much they still controlled of it. I think that's the craziest thing that I've learned so far, is that if Warner Brothers does go under Netflix, to me, I thought that would be some kind of positive angle to it. I know that I was still very skeptical about the whole thing about how Netflix doesn't really like putting things in theaters. And even then, Netflix putting stuff in theaters still doesn't make a lot of sense because they don't do it well. Netflix does not do putting movies in movie theaters well, and I think we learned that from The Red Notice. The Red Notice was a disaster. Not a great film, not the worst film, but its whole release process was a complete disaster. But now, outside of that, they have said on more than one occasion that they just don't do movie releases. He doesn't believe in it, Ted Sarandos. So, if he doesn't believe in it, even if he was to, from what I'm reading, he would still honor the contracts for the movies that they already have planned to come out till I think 2029. He's saying that he's still going to respect those contracts, but I mean, I don't know, like, how much of it will he respect? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want a movie to go into the theaters for 2 months and then immediately drop on streaming, because that's going to kill movie theaters. It's going to kill the idea, because everyone's just going to wait. Like, unless it is so highly anticipated, which almost nothing is, and if you were to follow that model, you got to follow that model the way Disney does it. I don't even think Disney does it that quick. Disney only does that with the films that they know suck. They know are not doing well. If by the end of the month, the film is not making anywhere close to the money they thought, bam, it's out of theaters and it's on streaming. But Netflix is going to have IPs that go through the roof. They're trying to get the Warner Brothers film studios which includes the DC studios, and they're also trying to get the HBO studios, which includes HBO Max. It includes all of those IPs and all of those future film deals and everything. They want the DC, which will come with James Gunn. They want HBO. It'll come with Game of Thrones. It'll come with, I believe I was reading that it comes with the Conjuring series. It comes with the Final Destination series. It comes with Lord of the Rings. They'll get full control over the Cartoon Network and Adult Swim and Hanna-Barbera. They obviously get the Looney Tunes. They're going to get so much. They're going to get so many IPs that you would think that in your head as the consumer, as maybe even the most common consumer, that would mean that they would create a substantial marketplace where they could really be the number one. And to me, I thought that was good because in my brain, I thought Netflix was out the door. I thought Netflix was dying. I thought every new thing that would come along or every other subscription that would pop up eventually would lead to somehow Netflix downfall in some capacity. I think it's just my own naivety because I'm not in the realm of most consumers as far as that's concerned. I give streaming services a try. I don't have multiples. I don't like having these multiple streaming services because they're just annoying. I don't like having all of them. I don't like paying for all of them. I don't like the price hikes for all of them. So I don't consume to all of those. And then if you were to talk to the basic household, most of them have maybe one or two. If you have more than that, I think that's kind of luxurious for you, but that's just my opinion. These things are getting pricey, and there's so many of them. You mean to tell me that you have Netflix, you have Disney, you have Apple, you have Peacock, you have Paramount, you realize how far the list goes down? Like, it's just nonsense to me. But I understand that there are some people out there that just need all of that content. But I got away from cable TV years ago, almost a decade and a half ago. I got away from cable TV. So I'm not going to re-enter that realm. And that sort of feels like where everything was going. So that's why I thought eventually one of these would take over. Did I think it was going to be Netflix? Not really, because Netflix was one of the first ones. And granted, they might still be going strong. They've lost a lot. You know, once Disney went and did its own thing, that was a huge catalog of Netflix's stuff that they just took out. Everything that was Marvel, everything Star Wars, anything that was connected to an IP that was like Lego or anything like that, Disney took and they went and they did their own freaking thing with it. And now you got Disney Plus. And Disney Plus, to me, is also a nightmare. Because I remember trying to sign up for the Disney Plus Hulu package, and it was not fun whatsoever. And I did it for a couple of months, and I just didn't like the experience whatsoever. And then they said we're raising the price, so I'm like, fuck that, I'm canceling. I don't give in to these demands of these things. You know what I mean? I don't allow myself to look at them and say that these are going to be the things I absolutely positively need. I have one at a time, if I have any of them at all, and it's usually the one that gives me the most for my money. And for a while that was Netflix, for a little bit that was Disney, and I always thought that something was going to be a Netflix killer. And I thought it would have been Disney, but Disney, they're in a weird spot right now too. So I'm guessing Netflix, from what I've learned, still holds a huge portion of the market. So if they were to grab Warner Brothers, that gap apparently opens up so much more, which basically sort of makes a monopoly, I think, if what I'm reading is correctly. And that's crazy. Netflix owning all of that and then sort of doing this thing where you have the consumer, the movie lover, worrying about whether or not you're going to put something in a theater. Like, I don't want to have to worry about that. I love going to the theater. But I also understand to an extent that it feels sort of like there's something wrong with movie theaters now. But it's not the movie's fault. It's the world we live in now. Things have changed. Movies and the prices of things, they go up, so people need to actually view it as something that's worthwhile. I used to be able to go to a movie every Saturday. Now, a movie is an event, and it's like that for a lot of people, so it has to be worth it. It has to be something that is worthwhile going out for. Most of the time, for me, it's one of those IMAX experiences or something in 3D. It takes a lot for me to go into a movie for anything else, and the most recent film that wasn't fitting any of those categories that I went to go see was that horror film Presence, and I talked about that on the channel. And the film Presence, to me, felt like it was worth it because it was such a unique concept that I told myself, I have to see this in theaters. Now, that's also with the idea that there was no expectation that it would eventually wind up on a streaming service within a couple of weeks. when you have that expectation, when you know that's going to happen, that's going to kill wanting to go to a movie even faster. And what is one of these things that I saw that Ted Sarandos said? He said something along the lines of, okay, so here it is. Netflix co-CEO Ted Sarandos, "With the current state of the box office is a sign that people want to watch movies at home. What is the consumer trying to tell us? That they'd like to watch movies at home. The studios and the theaters are duking it out over trying to preserve this 45-day window that is completely out of step with the consumer experience of just loving a movie." So here's the thing with that. Yes, people want to watch movies at home, but the problem with that is that he's basing it on the idea that we also spent 3 years in this state where we couldn't leave the house. So he's not wrong. He's just using the data incorrectly. He's saying that, oh, this is what the consumer base shows. But, like, yeah, please account for the idea that almost nobody could go to a movie for more than 2 years. And there was very few opportunities after the fact that people really felt was necessary. And there are still some people who probably really fear the idea of what the pandemic instilled in them. So people do want the movies. It's just harder now. It's harder for a lot of people to love and appreciate movies because of what everybody went through for a few years. But we're over that now. So I'm also coming from the perspective that sometimes I'll go to my local theater and there'll be maybe a few people in there, like a handful, not more than a dozen, and it's very disheartening. I used to love going to theaters and theaters be packed and you get really good theater reactions and you watch films that engulfed in theater reaction from what's happening on the screen. You just felt enveloped in this experience, and you just don't feel that anymore, or at least I don't in my area. And maybe you have better experiences in your areas, and I hope you do. And I just hope that they're enough that keeps theaters like mine open, that it would hopefully be better. And again, from the consumer perspective, I see everything that could go wrong. And I want to try to be positive about it, but it's very difficult, especially when you see all the information coming out over the last few days. I've redone this video about 3 times too, because every time I do it, something new comes out that contradicts something else I have already said. And this is the one I'm finally going to try to give up on, because I really want to state my opinion on everything. And I didn't want to go too deep into all the other stuff, all the stuff that Paramount's doing, talking to the White House and getting Trump involved. I don't want to get into any of that bullshit. All I'm talking about is that at this point, my general consensus is that I hope it doesn't happen. But if it does, I don't know what that means for the movie theater experience. I know what it's going to mean for movies, and basically what that means is that everything is going to now be this area where movies kind of already have been, in a way. There are a lot of great movies that come out straight to these streaming services. Apple produces great films, Netflix produces really good films. It's just what they push out. And yeah, we as the people sitting at home, sure, we like to have something that gives us quality for what we're paying for. I just don't know if Netflix is the one. Maybe Paramount is the one, but I don't even know if Paramount is the one. I never really thought I would see the end of Warner Brothers. Like, we're talking about the idea of Netflix buying Warner Brothers. It's as if the Shake Shack brought McDonald's. Like, do you see how crazy that sounds? Nothing should be buying Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers should be, if it goes down, it should dissolve, or it should split up and do its own thing, maybe get brought up by a couple of other studios, but not to have it in a position where it's happening what's happening right now. And even if it does happen, it's very strange that it's Netflix, and I really hope it doesn't, because it's so weird that it's Netflix. And if it winds up all going through and Netflix wins that bid, because for some reason the other thing is that Warner Brothers really wants it to be Netflix. So if they do, then it's likely going to happen. We apparently won't know until the end of next year, but this is still a very crazy time to be alive. Like, I've seen some companies that I've loved really go down the drain and have gone missing completely after a while, that I read years later that were defunct and brought out by other companies. But Warner Brothers was never the one, and it's a really sad day if it does happen, regardless of who it goes to. And I think that's the point that's being overshadowed, that everybody is talking about the political stuff, everybody's talking about the money, everybody's talking about the IP, the movie theaters. The history of what Warner Brothers gave us is basically going to be diminished to whatever is left over by whoever buys it. I think that's the saddest thing about the whole situation. And it's really upsetting that I don't think I've seen one person talk about that. And I think it's because I was raised during a generation that really thrived off of what Warner Brothers was pushing out. Like, I come from a generation of where, like, the WB Kids Network was huge. You know what I mean? You had the Dancing Frog on the WB. You know, it was basic television, and everybody had access to it. And that was Warner Brothers. You know, Warner Brothers gave us some of the greatest movies and the greatest series that we've seen in probably its entire 100-year realm. I'm pretty sure films off the top of my head that I know are from Warner Brothers, and I've been talking about the big ones like Harry Potter or Batman, but films like Gone with the Wind, Casablanca, Citizen Kane, you're talking about a history that it's not a history. You're talking about an empire that is about to be demolished by what is essentially the equivalent of if the Trojan horse was brought to the doors of Troy and they opened it up and it was a giant horse, but it was all see-through and made of glass, so you could see everything inside, and basically what that means is, like, all of the Netflix representatives are there, and it's pretty blatant what they're trying to do, and I don't know. I'm blown away, and I don't know how to feel except pure sadness for the idea that we are on the verge of what is truly the death of one of my favorite production companies, and I don't even know what to expect from the end of this.